Contrary to popular belief, the boys of Tomorrow by Together, commonly known as TXT, endured a lot and had to overcome countless challenges before they finally made their debut. As expected, K-pop trainees must endure plenty of hardships before making their career debut. To secure a spot in groups, trainees must put up their best effort to stand out due to the intense competition. Furthermore, the physical and mental strain of this rigorous training causes fatigue and other major problems. But compared to the second and first generations, the training environment has significantly improved. However, other elements have mostly not changed. That's why people started claiming that TXT were privileged. Because they were associated with BTS as their junior, under Big Hit Entertainment, fans were ready to defend the group from all their haters. Are you ready to hear their shocking debut story? Okay, cool! Let's get started. Everyone got the impression that TXT would be given particular consideration and would book collaborations, award shows, photo shoots, and brand deals in a snap of a finger. In fact, a lot of fans think the presumption that TXT had advantages because their affiliation with BTS seemed reasonable. After all, BTS had achieved unprecedented success, driving Big Hit to greater heights throughout the K-pop industry. As a result, TXT was frequently marginalized by their senior group and under pressure to equal BTS's level of success. They surely felt overwhelmed by the additional stress and responsibility that this brought. But people did not really care. In their heads, TXT would continue to be idols with golden spoons who didn't work as much as others and were thus not as deserving of success. But the brutal truth that surfaced from a recent live stream with the members dispelled these notions, prompting concerns about how TXT members are treated and whether or not they are being silenced in the industry. Soobin, Taehyun, and Weening Kai went live on Weverse on September 21st, revealing previously unheard stories from their trainee days. The members were mostly humorous when discussing their experiences, but given how young they were at the time, some of the incidents seemed extremely upsetting. Soobin started by talking about how he discovered some old 2017 pictures of them as trainees during the VMAs. He felt a little depressed seeing these photos, since they appeared to be exhausted from training so hard and lack of sleep. Following that, they each began narrating stories from their trainee days, one of which was particularly unsettling. One of the stories they told concerned the diets they had to adhere to. Although we have heard tales of idols sneaking food when companies forced them to follow diets, Soobin's account of this incident was especially heartbreaking. There was a period when they had to follow a rigorous diet during their training, and to satisfy his cravings, Soobin made use of the one room that didn't have a CCTV camera back then. Soobin claimed that one day he was unable to control his hunger, and he hurried to a convenience store to quickly get some gimbap and drinks. Soobin was aware that he would be caught if he ate his meal in company. To avoid getting busted, he opted for the window-equipped room without the CCTV. He felt an uneasy sensation that someone might be watching him while he was surreptitiously eating and pretending to do his homework. When he turned around, he saw a rookie member of the developing team watching him. Soobin went on, quote, "Back then, it wasn't even funny, like it was when I was on focused diet training, and dieting was hard for me, so that moment literally gave me goosebumps." End quote. It's devastating to consider the burden of continuous monitoring and to think you found the one place to enjoy a well-earned meal only to find out you're being watched there too. Sadly, things didn't stop there. Aside from the diets, it appeared that living in the dorms was exceedingly risky and that the conditions were appalling. Soobin recalled the incident in which water leaked onto the floor in their practice room's basement due to a broken ventilator and air conditioner. The result was actual mushrooms growing on the ground. The members had previously discussed this during a live broadcast in March, which Bomgyu and Taehyun related a comparable story about the former Big Hit building. They talked about finding a big yellow mushroom sticking out of the wall, which at first they thought was a sponge because of the color, but quickly realized it was a mushroom and took it out. To their surprise though, the mushroom had returned to the same location 3 days later, the members had to use a newspaper to clean the mirrors because of the humidity in the practice area, which also made them foggy. Operating the windows was their only means of providing some ventilation for the room. But doing so in the winter when they had been perspiring was a surefire way to invite sickness. Soobin stated, quote, "At that time, I kind of really hated the company. I hated our teachers. But when else would we be able to experience something like that?" End quote. Unbelievably, mushrooms weren't the worst feature of the former iconic building. Taehyun disclosed that the building also contained electric shock rooms, which were dangerous on their own and had injured him once. Additionally, Taehyun grabbed a broken extension cord that was present in the dorms. Without the assistance of his fellow trainees, he would have suffered a catastrophic electrocution. Taehyun said, quote, "I'm telling you, I'm still too scared to even touch just in case something happens again." End quote. The thought of how this could have ended simply because Big Hit neglected to find a broken extension cord is horrifying. If the members of the company already faced hardships due to the lawsuit-worthy conditions of the building, the company's teachers didn't even slightly lighten the situation. Taehyun revealed that the teachers used to chastise him for everything during training evaluations. He would get yelled at for practicing a song in a different way than how it was supposed to be done. Following the initial criticism, Taehyun copied the song word for word. Rather than receiving praise, he was informed that if he copied the song exactly, people would just end up listening to the original artist sing. What makes them want to listen to you? Do or do not, the consequences will be dire. But it got worse than this. One of the biggest producers of Big Hit, Supreme Boy, used to tell Taehyun that his voice lacked charm and he didn't understand why he was being called the main vocalist. Then, Supreme Boy would say that his voice was truly charming the next month. But we can all agree that there are far better ways to provide that young person with feedback. They didn't seem to get any help at all from the teachers, who seemed to be very harsh with them and gave them a lot of contradicting comments. These poor boys have already endured so much, and now some adults are dissecting their artistic abilities in an attempt to improve them. Following that, there existed power dynamics within the trainees themselves. Queening Kai recounted an incident in which other trainees were fully absorbed in their dance practice, while he, Taehyun, and Soobin got caught up in their language homework in the dance studio. A small window situated outside the room allowed Kai to see what the more senior trainees were practicing. The older trainees who were practicing outside seemed to have noticed Kai's spontaneous dancing when he noticed a particular move. Taehyun said that they knocked on their door unexpectedly and asked them to come out. Soobin continued by saying that their senior trainees misinterpreted their intentions and believed the members were making fun of them, which is how they got some harsh words. Unfortunately, the story didn't end there. Kai was shocked by the other seniors' responses because he didn't know they had been recording a video. When things became tense, the senior trainees responded by assigning everyone to planks as punishment. Since everyone was vying for a place in the group and viewed one another as competitors, everyone was already aware of the rigid social hierarchy that existed between trainees in the same company. However, it was unknown how unsafe trainees felt among themselves until TXT spoke about everything. Hearing all about the power tripping that occurred in the practice rooms, where members were disciplined for making lighthearted jokes, leaves us all wondering about what else may have happened that we are unaware of, which raises many questions about Big Hit and how they operate. Soon after, fans started asking what other experiences TXT has that we are unaware of. Such mistreatment and neglect are unacceptable and shouldn't be tolerated just because so many companies participate in them. It's important to publicly denounce the companies and executives in charge of these practices when talking about the terrible conditions that these trainees endure before making their debut. It is extremely troubling that these executives supported and occasionally even took part in the endangerment of children. Although it's encouraging that Big Hit has now changed its ways, entertainment companies still need to be the subject of some thorough investigations. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more.